Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer, and today I have two returning guests from CoHNA, Pushpita Sudha and Sudha Jagannathan. And we're going to be talking about our favorite topic, new laws being brought forth by California directed at Hindu Americans. So let's welcome our two guests, Pushpita ji, Sudha ji. Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaste.
Doing
so Pushpita ji, sorry, go ahead.
No, Pushpita can open it, please.
Yeah. So, Pushpita ji, I'd like you to kind of, what is SB 509? And looks like the people who tried to, pass SB 403 are busy at work, because I'm seeing all the people who are, strongly for the SB 509. They all seem to be from the same group. Talk to us a little bit about this SB 509. What does it stand for? And it seems to me that it's another bill that is wasting taxpayer money. That's just me. Over to you.
Yeah, so very quickly, I know we've talked a little bit about SB 509 a couple of months ago on your show. So it's another bill. SP stands for Senate Bill, SB 509. That's the name of the bill, just like SB 403, which your viewers will well remember. So this is an attempt to basically insert California into federal affairs. So California is a state and should, but now basically it wants to legislate on federal affairs and talk about TNR, which is transnational repression. Okay, that's, California will do what it wants to do. The problem, of course, with the bill is the innocuous wording has a lot of words that can be misused. There's a lot of vagueness in the words that have been used, and the words can be weaponized, very similar to SB 403, which, after the first set of amendments had become a pretty innocuous sounding bill, no mention of India, no mention of any specific religion. But the words can be weaponized. In the case of SB 403, it was the word caste, which is always seen as a Hindu, anti-Hindu word or something to target Hindus with. And in the case of SB 403, they've got 509, they've gotten a little smarter. And this time it was all about proxies and agents of the state, right? And so what's wrong with that, right? And because again, everybody cannot be a proxy, especially if you are a proxy for a state that doesn't exist, right? So as you know, California has seen 4 Hindu temples vandalized in 14 months. And that has been happening since December 2023. Yet our lawmakers have been ignoring that. And instead, they have been chasing these kind of non-existent problems like TNR, which are already tackled at the federal level. And really, the state doesn't have much of a role to play there. And they've been trying to do this, ignoring the temple attacks. And, we are very fearful that the next time a temple attacks happen or, this bill is in place, the police has been trained, quote unquote, trained to recognize certain people as proxies, certain people as dissidents. What does that mean for a person who speaks up for a temple that is vandalized under anti-India hate, right? This is not a theoretical problem. This is a real problem that we've been facing. And, as I spoke in my testimony at the Sacramento hearing, I said, look, the temples are already being vandalized through anti-India hate. So the people who are attacking it are pretty much saying, hey, you are proxies for India and we want to attack India and therefore we are attacking you. Now, at least right now, they are operating outside the boundary of the law. But we are very terrified that if this kind of faulty training goes into place without proper input from all the diverse communities that live in California, the police will agree with these kind of people and say, oh, you guys are complaining about a temple being attacked, but we only see anti-India slogans. If you are protesting, then you must be an agent. And you must be spreading transnational repression. So very dangerous bill, again, because of the vagueness and innocuousness of the words.
Thank you so much, Pushpita ji. Now, I like your thoughts, Sudha ji. You've been tracking this closely. You've been actually going to many of the sessions. You've also had discussions with some assemblymen and the state assemblymen and state senators. So talk to us a little bit about all the things that have happened. And you can also bring us back to where things stand today. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So SB 509, transnational repression for training services. So the whole bill is based on developing training for law enforcement. So this is a little bit different from how one of the co-sponsors had introduced a bill last year in 2024 called Transnational Repression AB 3027 adding India as a TNR entity. So, like Pushpita said, California is now stepping into federal affairs because anything to do with these countries, it's a federal matter. And the federal government and the FBI have definitions of what TNR is all about. But here, the bill today is being introduced by a senior senator, very seasoned senator, who's actually the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. And that was a very clever move by the co-sponsor, whose last year's bill got stalled. So this bill doesn't mention India or anything else, but it has those crazy vague terms with no definitions. So it passed very quickly through Senate. It went through a couple of Senate committees, and I was there to give testimony at the second Senate committee. And after my testimony and also HAF's testimony, one of the senators stepped down, came out and talked to us. And that was because one of her constituents is a CoHNA leader in Southern California. And he had been texting her all through the hearing. But her point, and the other folks who voted for it. So in the Senate, it was all unanimous. Both Democrats and Republicans voted for the bill. And they said, this is just training. It has nothing to do with you guys. It has nothing to do with India. And we said, no, that's not right. You have to look at the background of all of this. It started last year, introduced by Assemblywoman Jasmeet Bains, which was an assembly bill that didn't make it through. It's the same ideology here, and the bill is in the Senate, brought by the Appropriations Chair. It went into the Public Safety Committee. During that hearing, there were about 100 supporters. And those supporters, if I may say, they subscribe to the Khalistani ideology, right? They were all busted. On our side, we didn't have anyone because we didn't really think this was going to be a big deal. We had one student go, and poor kid, one student versus 150, he was intimidated and he went out. And we complained to the sergeant at arms office and said, this is not right. That student was there to testify. He didn't have that opportunity to testify. So it's a matter of public record that this happened. But it passed the Senate with full committees voting on it, both Democrats and Republicans. It's very hard for a senator or an assembly member to go against a bill introduced by the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Very powerful position. What if it is your bill that you want to get through the Appropriations Committee? And that means there is additional pressure on these committee members to make sure they really scrutinize bills introduced by the chair of the Appropriations Committee. So this is all part of the political game, right? So once it came out, then we also, in the meantime, we also met with the staffers, the key staffers for Senator Caballero, the sponsor of the bill. And we expressed all our concerns, and she listened to us. And she said, so is there anything we can do that you will support it? We said, no, the way it's written, there's no way we can support the bill because the vagueness of these terms, proxy, dissident, who defines who's a dissident, who defines a proxy? If I complain about the temple, am I a proxy for the Indian government? Because that's what we are being called today. How is this going to really protect the innocent? And she had no answers. And we know that they don't understand the complexities of these. So then it came into the assembly. And in the assembly, it was assigned to go to the Public Safety Committee again. It waited in a queue for a little bit. And pretty soon it moved to the Emergency Management Committee. Okay, that is where Assemblywoman Jasmeet Bains sits on. So again, at that time, we decided we cannot do this on our own. This is a bigger issue. So we actually collaborated with Hindu American Foundation when we started to make joint calls to express our concerns. And together we offered some amendments. And the amendments were really meant to give some clarifications on transnational repressor definitions itself. For example, they have it very loosely stated. Transnational repression, it can be an individual, but transnational repression is usually a government. And we wanted to add terror organizations, crime syndicates. They're all part of this transnational repression business. So we offered all of that. And the staffer for Senator Caballero, she gave us good time. And she listened to our comments and she took it back. Well, she thought she could take some of our amendments and put it into the bill. But of course, it had to go for review with the co-sponsors, and the chief co-sponsors, Assemblywoman Jasmeet Bains, wasn't willing to make any adjustments. So at the end
How much does she really know? Sudhaji, I want to ask you, Jasmeet Bains is born in the United States, isn't she?
I believe so. I think she's a third generation Indian American.
How much does she really understand all these things?
Well, she's from the Bakersfield area. She's a physician, right? The Bakersfield area has a lot of people who subscribe to the Khalistani ideology and feel that if their OCI card is withdrawn, that is TNR, right? Or if the US government is going after some of these folks, which FBI has been arresting a lot for criminal activities in the United States.
Yes.
And some of them are being extradited to India because they are still Indian citizens wanted for criminal activities in India. Well, all of these things are of concern to the supporters of the bill, and they are looking for California as a sanctuary state to help them. Actually, Senator Caballero in the Emergency Management Committee, and later on when Pushpita presented, I think Pushpita, you presented in the emergency, I did it in the Senate.
Yeah. So
in both situations, Senator Caballero said she was doing this because Assemblywoman Jasmeet Bains came to her. She was crying that she was getting death threats. This Indian government was targeting her and a lot of others, and the senator felt that she needs to help this community, and that's why she feels very strongly about this particular bill.
And then I just want to say one thing, right, to your point. I think this is what, it doesn't matter what somebody knows or doesn't know. I think it's very important for people to understand politics is transactional. So you have to speak up, and you have to make your voices heard, and you have to educate about yourself. This is fundamentally why CoHNA exists, because for some reason, Indian Americans and Hindus live here quite happily, but they forget that advocacy is as American as apple pie. This country is founded on the assumption there's a lot of processes and channels, and they work on the assumption that you will talk about yourself. If you as a community feel you're too busy, or to, I don't know, whatever the issues are, if you feel you're not going to do that, somebody else is going to talk for you. And the result is not good. So that's kind of what we've had is, we see repeatedly people say they're too busy, but everyone's busy, right? Every community is raising kids, working jobs. Life is stressful for everybody. It's a question of priorities. And I think for some reason, we have not realized that in a democracy, a lot of what you have to put in the effort to get back. So I am not a big believer in conspiracy theories. I simply believe that as a community, we have been too disengaged, and a Hindu problem the world over is that we are shy or unwilling to speak up as Hindus.
We are timid too. I just want to also say, so some of the amendments we offered obviously didn't make it in the Senate. But when it came to Assembly, the Emergency Management Committee, we talked to every member on that committee. And we also had our community start to call them. And so when we were getting these meetings and talking to them, and first question we would ask is, have you heard of the temple attacks in California? And invariably the answer was no. What is it? When did it happen? And at that time, the Baptist temple in Sacramento had been attacked. It was in the news. but these lawmakers and their staffers hadn't heard. But once the community started to call and demand that this be voted down, when we would call, they'd say, yes, we started to hear. We've been getting all these calls from all sorts of people. And then we went and looked it up, and this is terrible. These temple attacks are happening. So, the fact that when our temples are attacked, nobody knows. But when a synagogue, a church, a mosque, everybody knows. They should know. But the fact that they don't know about Hindu temples is because we never talk to our lawmakers. And so I want to say in the Emergency Management Committee, the chair, Assemblywoman Ransom, gave us time. She joined a call with CoHNA and HAF, and she listened to us. She asked lots of questions. And then on the day of the committee hearing, Pushpita and Sameer Kalra from HAF and Pushpita, obviously from CoHNA, did an outstanding job of giving testimony. So much so that the chair started to ask questions. Assembly members started to ask questions. The Republican members started to ask questions about the cost of the bill. At that time, this bill was tagged at about 905,000. And the question from the Republican member was, where is this money coming from? And it may not be 905, it could be many millions. And we said you have to add diversity because the California community is so diverse, and you have to protect the rights of everybody. And to have everybody represented, they'd have to hire consultants from all sorts of communities to develop the training. That adds up the cost. So the Republicans pointed to that, and they said, you would have had federal grants, but because the California's relationship with the federal government is not the best at this time, we can't count on that money. So that was very good timing of the cost implications. But the chair offered some amendments, and the chair's amendment actually moved the deadline to have this work done by July 1, 2026. It's moved to 2027, which is a good thing. They also added a language there to protect the rights under the First Amendment. Because for us to complain about the temple attacks is our right to complain about our place of worship, a violation of our religious rights of freedom of religious rights. And so they said those rights essentially would be protected. But really, the question of proxy and dissidents are all still there, and this could be very, very harmful. So that happened and passed, and the next year was going into Appropriations Committee. And then we found out something. We found out that these courses exist. There's actually an entire portfolio of courses. There is a course on TNR itself, actually a couple of them. Transnational repression, what is it? Examples. One of the examples I saw, they had a list of countries. Of course, India is also mentioned in it. So that is there. Then they had domestic terrorism, extremism, and how to deal with communities in a sensitive fashion. So then we started to call Appropriations Committee members and said, did you know this exists? And we spoke to the consultant for the Appropriations Committee, and she said she did not know this existed. So, I mean, Sree, my point is, as a novice to all of this, how politics works, but at the same time being a conscious citizen of the nation and wanting to make sure the state takes good care of its people, it's pretty disheartening to see that if Senator Caballero, the sponsor, did not know this, why did the staffers not call CAL, Office of Emergency Services, and post the entity that does the training? Why did they call and say, hey, we are going to do this bill, it's going to be a mandate on you, do you want this training? They would have said, don't worry, we are ahead of you, we got it, right? So, but if they knew it, they still decided, no, we need to do this because our constituents of the Khalistani ideology are demanding action and we need to do this. So it's virtue signaling.
So I think just back to what we were saying, there is no shortcut. In a democracy, there are no shortcuts. People are always saying, support one, support two, support this party. It's not about that. You have to put in the hard work as an individual to go understand who's running in your district, what their concerns and backgrounds are, and do they understand what your concerns and backgrounds are. And then the election doesn't mean the end of it. You got to go back to them after they're elected and make sure that they continue to understand what your concerns are, your community's concerns are. I think there is no space for being, lazy or timid or saying you're too busy. If you're too busy, then you're going to spend time doing all of this. That's really...
The problem with this, Shriji, is that SB 403 really wanted to brand us as castists, oppressors, rapists, and murderers. Transnational repression would label us as right-wing agents of India and repressors.
I think I just want to give color on that also, because before the bill was amended, it was actually, again, very bizarre, actually scary, because just for having an opinion that echoed what the country of India might have an opinion, might also agree, you could get branded as an agent, right? So thankfully that amendment has been made, because that was ridiculous, right? So if the country of India says, oh, I don't like the Khalistani ideology, and I also say it as an individual, am I a proxy now? That's kind of ridiculous, right? I'm entitled to an opinion, even if it coincides with that of a country that I originate from, or any country for that matter. So the fact that my opinion coincides with the opinion of another person or country or organization should itself not be problematic. And that's how weird the bill was initially. That amendment has been made. But again, to the point that if you don't engage, you're going to get a bill that starts out the way it had. Nobody else really cared about this bill. And again, just a little lesson in how this process works. California passes about 1,000 laws every year, just California. And that means there are God knows how many bills that start, if you don't make it out. So do you really think the assembly person or their staff has any way of reading 1,000 bills and understanding what the impact of them could be? No, they are busy. Their job is to get their own bills passed, right? So every assembly person or senator is trying to get 1, 2, 3 bills passed, because unfortunately that is how voters reward, judge a politician. Oh, I got 2 laws passed. I got 3 laws passed. I mean, honestly, I would start to reward people for removing bad laws. But anyways, so the elected official and their staff are focused on getting their 2, 3 bills passed, talking to their colleagues, right? They don't have time to read the 1,000 bills. And so we've seen this now over and over again. When we first pick up the phone and start calling in March, people have no idea what we're talking about. You can literally see them Googling, what bill? Oh, let me Google this, right? And then if the calls continue, if the pressure continues, then the people start to get educated. That's literally how they will read a bill that is not their own. If some community, because it's always a balancing act, right? Do I want to annoy my colleague, a fellow assembly person, senator, by voting no on their bills? Because then they can vote no on mine, right? There's got to be enough reason.
I rub your back, you rub mine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's got to be enough reason for you to oppose your colleague, right? Everybody should think of their own work situation. Why would you go against a colleague with whom you're going to work every day for a person who you're going to see once in a year or once in 2 years, right? There's got to be a reason. And so people need to stop looking for conspiracy theories and just put in the time, the tedious time to get involved.
Yeah, it's time and money, both count. And I think the Hindu community really needs to get its act together. We have to soft pedal all of our successes and, thumping our chest on being a very successful community, and then say, hey, I'm an American. I need to engage in civic matters because it matters to me and my future generations. And that's the whole point of this particular bill. So it's actually, yesterday there was a hearing, another busload of people showed up. When we go, we are taking time off of work. We are driving, we are flying in. and staying in hotels sometimes from Southern California, etc. So, but when these folks come, they are bussed in. Most of them are some of them are asylum seekers. Many are retired. Of course, there are young people too, but they do seem to have a community ready to activate in a moment's notice. And they showed up. The bill is in the suspense file because the cost is way too high. So we are hoping that California does the right thing, meaning don't go spend money where you don't have to. All of this exists, the training. So now the suspense file, I guess, is going to be looked at end of this month. And that's when we will know whether this bill proceeds to the assembly floor. Again, what that means is every Hindu in California should be talking to their own assembly members, not the committees, own assembly members, and say, don't vote and don't waste my tax money, right? Represent me correctly. I hope we have the guts to ask that. And if that passes the assembly, it goes to the governor. So the governor should look at it and say, do the same thing that he did with 403. He said, unnecessary. I hope the governor does the right thing if it gets to that level and say, this already exists, ridiculous bill, we don't need it. That's what we are hoping. But how we never know how things work in California. We better be prepared that the state is going to spend money it doesn't have because it needs to make some people happy, not us.
I'm sure Gavin Newsom would like to get hold of a mint for all the things he wants to do to the people of California. But see, the takeaway here is that things like this are already in place. You don't need a new bill. Therefore, it's actually a complete waste of money, waste of taxpayer money, debating about this and introducing it. Look, there is a problem here in that people who are saying we want this, what is their locus standi in the American system? Are they asylum seekers? They are still not US citizens. They are not even permanent residents. And should you be heeding to them? I mean, I'm asking Baines, you are a physician, right? You should apply your mind before finding out how many of the people who you say are concerned about this. And also, what about the crimes they committed? Who's going to pay for the people that they may have killed in India and then escaped? So this is very, very serious stuff. That's why I asked you, is she born here in the United States or is she born in India? Because many of these people, what can I say? This is something like without really checking on fact, like you said, that if already training programs are in place, why even start a new bill? So I put it back on Baines. She is the one who started the whole thing rolling. So she needs to have done her homework better. But that's just learning part of learning experience. So hopefully next time around there is more clarity. And 1,000 bills a year is just too many. And then we already have some ludicrous bills that have been passed, even signed by the governor. For example, I'm told that no Californian can ask any person of the legality of their status. That itself is illegal.
I can't keep up with all the bills. There are too many.
Yeah, my head is ready to
app, Shriji. We need an app that will monitor all of those bills and then start to throw out junk and hold these people accountable. If some smart people can come up with this kind of thing and then hold the legislatures accountable, that should be part of what government spends on software that helps them to do that. Unfortunately, right now they get away with a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, watch this thing till the end. I'm saying this at the end, hoping that you have come this far, because we have given you the exact status here. It's a black and white case. This bill is not needed, just like the SB 403 was not needed. Thanks once again to both of you, Pushpita ji and Sudha ji, for taking time out. It's late in the night as we record this thing. Thank you so much. And viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And also look up CoHNA. Is that .org? Is that your website?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
CoHNA.org.
.org.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaskar.